I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning working on this. And Paul Joseph Watson is working on a story right now, so is Kit Daniels. And quite frankly, they already had stories ready to go. And I said, stop. We don't follow the news. We lead the news. And on this piece of Scalia news I'm about to cover, when I woke up this morning and saw a text message from Joe Biggs and one from Leanne McAdoo, it blew me away. It was in the Washington Post. It was also in the Daily Mail and a bunch of other publications. And when I read it, I knew exactly what they were doing. We had Clinton insider Larry Nichols on yesterday, who did talk to one of the surviving conservative justices. I think you can guess who we're talking about. I don't know the point of not just admitting who it is. The government already sent feds out to Nichols' house to threaten him. But I won't say the name. And he said there is a federal investigation about to start, a special investigator, special counsel, and there's a private investigation. Dick Cheney said, quote, no comment, when he was asked by the media. And then I get up at 6 o'clock this morning, stumble into the bathroom, put water on my face, brush my teeth. That's just my ritual. Then I go into the shower, take a hot shower for 5 minutes, take a second shower after I work out, a long one. It's just my ritual. And I went in and sat down at the coffee table and turned on my iPad, and it was mirroring text from Leanne and Biggs at like 1 in the morning. They weren't together, but they were both texting me then. And I saw the headline. Justice Scalia spent his last hours with members of his secretive society of elite hunters. Man, they're good at spinning stuff. Man, they're good at engaging in disinformation. This Poindexter fellow was in Black Ops in the Army, not just in Vietnam, but all over the world. Nichols, who was involved in Iran-Contra as a commando, leading teams, says he's basically been at this guy's ranch, the one they would run out of one country into another down in Central America. That was yesterday. You add to that they would spin this and say that it was a hunting secret society. I am, other than the people that are in these cults, the leading outside expert on them. But let me just give you a crash course before we go into this article. Then I'm getting into Trump. Then we're going to have video reports, the photos, exclusive intel inside that ranch at the bottom of the next hour. There was a renaissance starting in about 1500 in Europe that was unseating the Catholic Church's power and the nobility's power, who ran monopolies and wouldn't let anybody basically be a cobbler who made shoes or anything else seen as industrial unless you were given a certification license by the nobility. And that caused the Dark Ages because they didn't want any competition. The Dark Ages from about 410 all the way up till about 1500, more than 1,000 years. You can also call it the Middle Ages, a shorter period in there. And if you understand this, you understand the entire system of the battle in the West for the future. The Roman Empire falls. Later, the Byzantine Empire falls to the Muslims in Constantinople. Rome almost falls in the 800s. There are crusades out of France and England led by the Norse, the Vikings. who had conquered England and France. The Norse, who also founded Russia, crush the invaders. In 6 different major invasions, killing millions on both sides. Almost depopulating the Middle East and areas of Europe. A death battle. By the 1400s, people are sick of the tyranny of the monopolies of the nobility and the church, and they begin to use what's left of ancient masonry and ancient pre-Christian secret societies that I would not call satanic. Definitely occultic and hidden. To try to form a system to challenge the establishment and bring in a new enlightenment. They team up with the Rosicrucians, an ancient Christian sect predating Roman Catholicism and the Orthodox Church both. But they were mystics. Those groups merge, and from the middle of the 1400s to the 1760s, they had overthrown the real power of the monarchies, had started the Reformation, and had driven a tyrannical form of Catholicism out of much of Europe. Incredible prosperity was booming. Monopolies were being broken. Power of the people under different acts like Magna Carta expanding through were empowering the people. Comparatively, none of it was perfect. Both sides had problems. Both sides began to infiltrate each other. I'm going to skip this network break. This is so important. Christians and Masons that actually followed Christ by that point, Christian Masons, launched their operations in the colonies and believed they were finally going to have a truly free country to empower humanity. And the goal was to end slavery, empower women. It had to be done in phases. They launched the entire operation that was Francis Bacon's plan, the New Atlantis. They defeat the British Empire that no one had ever stopped. Working with the French that had launched their own plan. The problem was the German Illuminati, led by Adam Weishaupt, a Jesuit, had launched a counter-revolution secretly in the 1760s. And when he saw the 1776 revolution launched, he went operational with their counterfeit 1776. I know this from George Washington. He wrote a bunch of letters on it, but it's also in the histories. So you got George Washington in the West battling the head of the Illuminati, a Satanist, in the East. Classic battle. And they killed him. They poisoned him. They bled him to death. He was poisoned. They came in. They bled him to death. They killed George Washington. He was getting ready to come back into politics and face them. They killed him. And so there's been a battle between the German, and they're not German, but it's German-based, Bavarian Illuminati and the Western New Atlantis Renaissance group, which is the real Illuminati. They never called themselves that. They said, we're the Enlightenment. So the Illuminati said, oh, we're the light. They launched their counterfeit populist operation. They come in and they infiltrate. You can read Weishaupt's writings because one of his letter couriers got struck down with a big manual. They had copies of it to be given to other members in France. He got struck by lightning. This is an Encyclopedia Britannica, by the way. This is not my opinion. He got struck down. And again, I'm an expert on this. Discovery Channel, History Channel, interview me. I mean, I know what I'm talking about. I know the stuff 33rd degree Masons know, okay? And I learned it from research and historical information. It's all hidden right there. And so what happened is this group branded itself, and Weishaupt said, we'll take over the hunting societies and lodges for men that like to hunt, like the company of, guys sitting around drinking beer, the deer hunters. We will take over the reading societies and the literature societies and the music societies, and then we will take over the sexual secret societies. Because a lot of folks wanted to be able to have sex with more than one person, or maybe they were gay or whatever, so there were sexual secret societies. And he said, we'll claim that we support all of these and that we're the original progenitors of these, and we'll claim that we're the Rosicrucians and the Christians and the Merovingians and all of it. And then our plan is total dominance and control to get rid of the church and to get rid of Christianity and get rid of the Muslims as well and set ourselves up as absolute Luciferians over the world. So when you read about Justice Scalia dying and there's a pillow over his head and they got private jets at the airport, but he's not put on those, that, by the way, he flew in on. That's now confirmed. And then they drive him to another town and they act all suspicious and they change their stories. Obviously, something was being covered up. Now, I was saying 98% chance they killed him before because of all the suspiciousness and the behavior. Now it's a 90% chance somebody killed him, maybe less, because it could have been they were involved in a bunch of rituals. Who knows who was out there? They don't want this to come out. They wanted to clean it up. That place looks like something out of The Shining, as our crew said, not just Day of the Dead stuff, which isn't satanic. It's about celebrating your ancestors. I've looked at it. You know, November 30th, it's not Halloween, nothing to do with it. Some of the occultists have jumped on the bandwagon, but there were sculptures there we're going to be showing later for TV viewers and radio listeners that aren't just, you know, Mexican mask or voodoo mask. Some of it is occultic, but actual sculptures of Satanism and children being sacrificed. So the bottom of the next hour, we're going to get to that in detail. But I want to be clear. I'm not saying Scalia was part of a satanic order. But they're now being forced in the Washington Post to go, okay, there was a secret society meeting. It's a Christian Catholic society of hunters that was around for 300 plus years. And the Nazis destroyed it because they wouldn't make Hermann Goering the head of it, who was a big huntsman. And they dumb it all down. And now we're just admitting it. Then they go to say it was reconstituted in the 1960s at Bohemian Grove, north of San Francisco. So then you have to have the whole history of that. I'm the guy that snuck in successfully, infiltrated, got the only footage out. Everybody else has been arrested or imprisoned. I was able to do it by the grace of God. It itself is a German death cult Illuminati. So is Skull and Bones 1832. And a president, Taft, a member of Skull and Bones on the East Coast, founded by the Bavarian Illuminati, that's on record, in 1832 in the U.S., 50-something years after it was founded in Germany, Lodge 322, by the 1870s was already traveling there before he was president and taking over the Bohemian Grove that was a writers club and a party club to bring prostitutes to, basically, female prostitutes that Mark Twain and others attended. They kicked them all out, took it over by the 1900s, and presidents began traveling there, and they brought up Bavarian Illuminati rituals there. Now, we have this from Helmut Schmidt, former German chancellor, author of Men and Powers of Political Retrospective. He writes about it. He goes, we have our own groves. We do our own Illuminati rituals. This is a public book. He goes, more gets done at Bohemian Grove than the Trilateral Commission and the CFR and our own Bavarian groves where we do rituals. He goes, it's the most important grove in the world. And in my film, I have the book. I open it. I show screenshots, and I show the text. In my film, Dark Secrets Inside Bohemian Grove, and part 2 of that is The Order of Death. They're both free online at YouTube. You can buy them in DVD and higher res at InfoWarsStore.com. But I digress. And we'll have some B-roll from my films later in the next hour. This will be a day long remembered. Now, Bohemian Grove is founded by the Illuminati. So is Skull and Bones. Then it founds other chapters under it at a Southwest Texas, on the border, 30,000-acre ranch with a black ops commander connected to Iran-Contra, who gets presidential awards from Obama, and Scalia dies there with 2 private wide-body jets. One of them he flew in on with his best friend, and he's not put on that and flown back to D.C. that takes 3 hours. He's driven 3.5 hours to El Paso. We knew there was a cover-up. And they may have covered up the circumstances because it was Valentine's Day and Mr. Scalia wasn't with his wife. He was out in the middle of nowhere, 100 miles from any town. Now, I don't know what went on, but I know what goes on at Bohemian Grove that Scalia has attended. And it's in my films. And it's what Wayne Madsen hinted at and got into. And that is all men, massively gay overtones, But a lot of the men are not bisexual or homosexual. And then in town, there are hotels and a golf course where it's chock full of hundreds of the top prostitutes, female, of the world that arrive. And this has been in Time Magazine, Newsweek, you name it, articles about it. And when I snuck in there 16 years ago, I was pretty good looking, and I now realize why I was able to get in. Mike Hansen was a good-looking fellow as well. You can see in the footage. And we were getting whistled at by people. We had to hide out basically under a building until dark because guys were coming up trying to grab our butts. And I'm talking about billionaires, folks. There's only like 1,000, 1,500, members tops. They can each have one guest. I'm not saying Clint Eastwood goes there and he's a bad guy. Most people going there are not bad. They have amazing music, food, all of it, over 100 camps inside. It's inside a gorge on the Russian River. It's beautiful. One of the prettiest places in the world. Looks like Bavaria. And looks like the Black Forest. And that's the outer room to be invited to that. And then you get into the deeper Illuminati if you get vetted and if they like you. It is a way to get to know you socially and let your hair down. And again, it's in my films that break all of it down in great detail. So Scalia spent his last hours with members of his secretive society of elite hunters. That's how they spin it. They claim it's a order of St. Hubertus, founded more than 300 years ago in Germany and Austria. And reportedly Poindexter is a member of it, and he's at the table surrounded by all this occultic regalia. Scalia is an officer of it, and this is a dead society destroyed by the Nazis that's resurrected at the Bavarian spinoff in Northern California, Bohemian Grove. Now, I told you about the Order of Death, a very important 800-page book that I've read twice, written by Heinz, I think Hubert's the name. Funny, it's Hubertus is the saint. And I read it in other historical books, but this was from declassified documents. The Nazis were getting rid of the old Illuminati because they didn't want anything that stood in their way. And so, because he wouldn't, the leader of it wouldn't basically put Hermann Goering, head of the German Luftwaffe, Hitler's left-hand man, in charge of it, they killed the leader of the order, and that's in the Washington Post and in the Daily Mail, because they wouldn't let them take it over. And that's in Order of the Death said that they were taking out the different Illuminati spinoff groups, the Masonic groups, all of them that didn't fully turn over their entire secret organization to the Nazis. So people like to make these jokes. Oh, Jones says German death cults run it all. Germans, Illuminati. Well, no, it started there, but it's a worldwide system of control, and that's what it is. So who could make this up that we'd have 5 reporters down there showing all the occultic iconography? Who could make this up that I'm in the middle of Bohemian Grove and that Joe Biggs tweeted out and put on his Instagram? We're going to show it later. We're going to line all this stuff up and just show it all to you. Saying this is like Bohemian Grove 2.0. Well, it turns out it is the Texas Bohemian Grove. And they've got other ones around the country as well. These are real Illuminati chapters. And strangely enough, I wasn't invited into chapters like these that were low level or a bunch of drug heads acting like Satanists. When I was a teenager, I was actually invited in to the feeding groups in Dallas into a Bavarian Illuminati satanic organization. So my whole life has been connected to this. There was a move to enlighten humanity. There was a move to empower the individual. There was a major move for free will, led by Christians. But not the Christians you see in these big establishment churches, most of which are run by big, long-tailed devils who know full well what they're part of. Deceiving you, the profane, suppressing you, making you slaves. Well, I'm here to break the chains. You can break them as well. I'm here to see the rise of humanity. I'm here to see us truly empowered. And the false Illuminati will be broken on God's knee, and will fall into a trillion pieces. The wreckage of a twisted system that invaded and suppressed civilization. Human potential will not be suppressed. To the stars and beyond, we are coming. Instead of going to these churches. You don't need to go into these churches, folks. Almost all of them are run by the system. They're men who want to be gods, high priests that want to have you fall before them instead of fall before God and be lifted up by angels. All right, let's get back to this epic news. I mean, Washington Post, you name it. Oh, hey, he was in a secret society. It's a hunting society. Yeah, founded in Germany 300 and something years ago, founded in the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. Yeah, and sure, there's a place called Bohemian Grove that resurrected it and after the Nazis destroyed it in the early 40s. And yeah, there's black op commanders that get special awards from Obama that are part of it. And Scalia died, and they didn't take him back on the private jet, and there was no security there, and they just wanted to all be alone out there on the 30,000 acres with skulls and demon faces everywhere. And we have the footage of bizarre demons eating little children. We haven't shown that footage yet for TV viewers. Radio listeners can go to Infowars.com/show. In fact, can we roll some of that footage that actually shows the... Yeah, look at this, a dead woman with a demon above her in a ritual, and when they pan down, there's little dead children there on the altar. Yeah, that's not the footage I saw this morning. That's some shaky, weird footage. We've got some other good footage I saw back there, but, you know, our problem is we've just got so much footage of all of this. And then Joe Biggs Instagrammed out, SSG Biggs, sitting at the very chair where Scalia sat for dinner that night with all the demon and devil mask behind him. And then right behind that just is more, you know, endless rooms of bizarre satanic memorabilia. Isn't that just interesting? So Scalia, Justice Scalia spent his last hours with members of this secretive society of elite hunters. So, okay, guys, we got trouble. The help knows it was a secret society. The help knows something weird went on. They got investigators. There's a federal investigation being launched that we told you about first here yesterday. This is them talking. We got to go ahead and get ahead of this being a secret society, a Bavarian Illuminati deal. What do? Well, our feeder groups are hunting clubs, sex clubs, and reading clubs. And so the front for this is a hunting club. And so we'll just go ahead and run with that. And that's what they did. Because, again, the hunting clubs, the hunting secret societies, this is one of the most elite in the world, are the feeders into the real Illuminati, which is why Bohemian Grove, the real Illuminati in the U.S., Skull and Bones, created. It was created by the German death cult. German death cult was the granddaddy that gave birth to Skull and Bones. That was the daddy and the mommy that gave birth to Bohemian Grove. And now Bohemian Grove's grown up. It's over 115 years old, and it's a big boy now. And it's given birth to this. It's been around for decades. And they've got these things in Texas. They've got them in Tennessee. They've got them in New York. You've seen Eyes Wide Shut, folks. And there's different flavors, different variants. They worship different goddesses and different gods, but they all lead back to the same thing. So it's a big deal to have Scalia die in the middle of a secret society meeting. Should there be an investigation now? Well, reportedly, from a good source, there is an investigation federally, but also privately starting. So what other revelations are going to be coming out? Now, continuing, ladies and gentlemen, we are digesting all of this info. And we are going to be breaking it all down here today, coming up at the middle of the next hour. And we have a special report that I've shot on this subject as well 15 years ago that we're going to be re-airing here. Just a snippet from my film, Dark Secrets Inside Bohemian Grove. Now, some will argue and spin this. These are just Mexican masks. Yeah, from Santeria and voodoo, folks. And they have found thousands of dead bodies over the border in that very area of Mexicans sacrificed. That's even been in Texas Monthly, but it's not even really known. They don't really make movies about it. It is so dangerous and dark down there. Very romantic, very mysterious. And most of these masks, you notice, are devil mask and demon mask. There's so many other masks down there. And you know, you could decorate a place with all the great Spanish and Mexican culture stuff, but instead, oh, let's just go with devil stuff everywhere. And then the books, as Kit Daniels points out, are about the fall of civilization, Rome, the Nazis, world government, the Illuminati. That's what this is all about. So that's who really rules this planet. And they robbed the Renaissance. They took over the real Illuminati. You know, Christ, light of the world. Who's the devil? The angel of light, the false light, masquerading as God. And just like Bohemian Grove, they've got the sculptures of the devil murdering women and children and tearing them limb from limb. And Justice Scalia dies in the middle of this, and they have to admit it was a German, Austrian-Hungarian secret society. And Joe Biggs says it's like Bohemian Grove 2.0 last week, and it is created by Bohemian Grove, the Washington Post. Justice Scalia spent his last hours with members of the secretive society of elite hunters. And now we know who the secretive friend is he traveled with. And there's jets on the tarmac ready to get him out. And they didn't. They drove him out and made sure there was no autopsy. Daily Mail. Justice Scalia spent his final hours in the company of a secret society of hunters that has existed since the 1600s. As a researcher and a top expert on this, I've infiltrated one of these events, and I was attempted to be inducted into it as a teenager repeatedly. I mean, I'm talking 20-bedroom mansions and stuff, okay? I'm not talking about some crackhead over here acting like they're a Satanist or somebody wearing a pentagram, you know, around their neck in a rock band wanting power. They think the devil gave them power when God gave them that talent. The devil's trick is he gives you confidence that you already had. And let me tell you, you get into powerful circles of people, most of them are into the occult, and most of them think the devil gave them their success. I'll tell you this. I'd give it over a 90% chance, about a 90% chance that Scalia met with foul play, a 100% chance there's a cover-up. But I've gone from a 98% chance that was foul play to, you got a little bit of heart problems, you're overweight, you take Viagra, you're down there by yourself on Valentine's Day, and you die of a heart attack, and then they don't know what to do, and it's the middle of a big party, and then let's just get his body over here to a county we control. Let's not put him back on a jet, get to D.C., and the different federal hospitals there are going to do an autopsy because they've done it with Ron Brown, had a bullet in his head. They got good people in the government. They said Pat Tillman was murdered, the Army colonel that did the autopsy. There are a lot of good people in our government. I got to say, I used to bash the government all day, but at professional level, at the military brass level, and they're more informed and care more than the general public. That's why I don't want to be enemies with the feds, because a lot of them are some of the best people there are. They didn't want the feds getting them. They sent him 300-plus miles to have his blood drained and to embalm him and then ship him back. And it was all done secretively. So did he die like Errol Flynn in the saddle? Or was he murdered? It's a 99% chance he either died in the saddle or was murdered. Now, that's the criminology prime projection. And I'm not bragging, folks, but I've proven it. I know what I'm talking about. Notice I'm right in the middle of it. I'm the one guy to infiltrate Bohemian Grove. Did it again, told the History Channel they were being set up. History Channel got arrested. I didn't. I'm not bragging. I know what I'm talking about. We come out, we say it looks like it's occultic. We're investigating it. Looks like Bohemian Grove. Boom, it is a Bohemian Grove satellite. There is a cover-up. There must be an investigation. The question is, who does it? So we're proving it right again. Just like I told you Saturday, watch. I bet there's not an autopsy. Wasn't an autopsy. The law flouted. The law ignored. What else do I have to be right about before people start listening to what we're saying? This is a Bavarian Illuminati cult. It is the dominant cult in our government, and I've explained this. And the Nazis get so mad at me out there, that's why they attack me more than Benjamin Netanyahu. You go to all the major Nazi sites, I am the #1 hated by the Nazis and the #1 hated by the Southern Poverty Law Center and one of the top hated by the ADL. Why does the left-wing Jewish group hate me? Why does the foundation-run, offshore-run Southern Poverty Law Center hate me? Why do the white supremacists hate me so much? Because they're all run by the same people to create a racist dialectic. Let me tell you, when you get up to the highest levels of Hollywood or corporate world, they're not worshiping the Talmud, even if they're Jewish, and a lot of them are Jewish. They're not worshiping, Jesus if they're Catholic. They're not, if they're Muslims, they're not following Muhammad. Whether it's the Saudi royalty or whether it's the liberal elites or the royal family of England, they are worshiping Lucifer, the morning star. He's the god of this world. And so the Supreme Court justice at the key time died. And they say he's an officer in the group in an Illuminati meeting. Now, let's be clear. Scalia did a lot of good things. He did some bad things. And most people in a pyramidal or compartmentalized cult structure do not get into the 9th circle. You may have heard of that from Dante, but they have 6, 7, 8, or 9 circles. Then they have circles within the final circle of compartmentalization. These are the original intelligence networks. And so most people are inducted. Hey, it's a hunting lodge. In fact, they talk about the most moral. You induct them into a hunting lodge, or you induct them into, they had Christian organizations that were fronts, that we're going to help the poor. And that way you control everybody, get their money, have them under your control. You can watch them. And the Illuminati papers talk about this. Adam Weishaupt's about, we must get all the moral men. We must get the best people. And so there's a very good chance Scalia was out there as part of just the corporate minutes of this hunting ancient society that was refounded by Bohemian Grove, and that someone was brought in and he was taken out. That's the prime analysis and where it's all pointed right now. There's a secondary chance that there was other hanky-panky going on, other weirdness going on with other people, so they didn't want an investigation when he had a heart attack. And then it was natural. That's a very small probability. And then there's another probability that he was exercising himself in the bed. We'll just leave it at that. And, obviously at his age, 79, taking something to stimulate that they warn you at that age don't take, Cialis or Viagra, is going to make you have a heart attack and die in some cases. And that's the investigation for the FBI and everybody else, which I know you guys already know about all this, but that's what's going on. And are you going to let a Supreme Court justice die inside an Illuminati compound with a black op commander running the whole thing that hangs out with Obama at a key point? I mean, with no autopsy and the pillow on the face and all the rest of it, and all the story changing dozens of times now. And again, there is an investigation. You heard it from Larry Nichols. That's why this is all coming out, because they want to put it out how they're going to put it out first, to control it and spin it. When we come back, even bigger news, and I'm going to do the next half hour on this and then get back into the Illuminati, because you need to know what really governs you and what is trying to get full control. New York Times columnist jokes about assassination attempt ending Trump's campaign. He says, good news, guys, I've figured out how the Trump campaign ends. And this wouldn't have been done by Ross Do That if he hadn't been authorized. You can bet your bottom biscuits. So we're going to break that down coming up. If you want Dark Secrets Inside Bohemian Grove, it's a 2-film CD and The Order of Death. Alex Jones has blown Bohemian Grove wide open. John Sargent, World of Wonder, Channel 4 UK. You can get the 2 films, the one I made 16 years ago, right after I came out. I made it about a month so they wouldn't kill me. I mean, we had break-ins, death threats, robberies, they came after us for this. They got real mad. And then about 5, 6 years later, I did an update The Order of Death. It's an even more powerful film. Our entire society is ruled and controlled by deep occultists, director Alex Jones. You might want to get this at InfoWarsStore.com. But no one has an excuse. Watch The Order of Death. Watch Dark Secrets Inside Bohemian Grove free on YouTube and other platforms right now. But this is something everybody should have in their collection. It has a 5-star review. Perfect 5 stars. Perfect. I think it's the only product we have that's a perfect 5-star. I'm sure the trolls will go give it bad reviews. Whatever. It doesn't even look real when we're at 5.0, so it's good the trolls go and do their fraudulent reviews because it drives stuff down to 4.8 and stuff. It's more believable. Anyways, I'm not being arrogant. I'm just risking my life here, so I'm going up against these people hardcore. Also, we got a bunch of specials running right now on InfoWarsLife.com, and you're funding this whole operation. Winter Sun is the best vitamin D combo, D3 combo we could produce. It's organic, 15% off. That's what you need when you're not getting sun in the winter and spring and fall months. InfoWarsLife.com. All new InfoWars Life joint formula is now here. Comparable brand with all these compounds together would cost $40, $50, $60, or $70. It's $29.95. Brain Force is back in, 10% off when you sign up for any of the products for auto ship. And we also have Liver Shield back in stock, InfoWarsLife.com. And you are funding the vicious, flaming spear of truth that will go right through the dragon's heart. And I'm ready to do it. I was literally just out there writing an article with Kit Daniels, working with him on it. And Kit's a smart guy. Paul Watson's a smart guy. So if they don't completely understand what I'm saying, I just did a voice memo for them so they can transcribe it. I'm going to do that again and then get into Trump. This is the short, condensed Reader's Digest version of the Illuminati, which you can even find in Encyclopedia Britannica. There was a major Renaissance world movement taking place in Europe and the colonies after 200-plus years of the building Renaissance that was unseating the Catholic Church and its monopolies as well as royalty across Europe, as well as England and Scotland. A Jesuit by training, Professor Adam Weishaupt at Ingolstadt University, then developed his own counter-populist movement that was not meant to overthrow the monarchies or overthrow the church, but to actually overthrow the Renaissance in the name of overthrowing the royalty and the church, to then establish a total world dictatorship that was Luciferian in nature. George Washington, in his famous letters against the Illuminati, points all of this out and says that the French Revolution is super bad news and is meant to create total tyranny and that needs to be resisted. So, simply put, it is a false political populist movement designed to basically say all the right things, come in and take over the Renaissance, take over civilization and society, and establish tyranny. When the police raided the Illuminati after one of their letter carriers was struck by lightning and they found whole dossiers going to France and other countries and Italy on how to run these operations, the Illuminati was broken up in Germany for a time. It moved in 1832 to Yale with the Russell Trust giving it millions of dollars to establish the organization at Yale and to try to take the United States over. Skull and Bones was founded. Skull and Bones took over a popular hunting lodge north of San Francisco that Mark Twain was a part of. They kicked them out close to 1900. And Howard Taft and others that were members of Skull and Bones went to Bohemian Grove and set it up as a party palace to induct other powerful men and robber barons and royalty to get them to join their death cult. It has since set up satellite organizations across the United States, and they now admit in the Washington Post that it was a satellite organization set up in the 60s, reviving a particular order, a hunting order that was a front then as well, with Scalia as an officer in it, and established a Bohemian Grove satellite in Texas. And as we've told you, there are other satellites around the country. So that's what this is. That's what's happening. And when we say secret society, it means a private intelligence network. They have their own courts, their own trials, their own systems. They copy the Masons, but they are not the Masons. They have taken the Masons over in many areas because it's compartmentalized, and the porch Masons or the profane Masons don't know they're being given a different teaching than one of the more ancient Solomon-based or Egyptian-based Masonic systems. But the real system that modified this and created the Renaissance would be the ancient Christian order. Our story begins in Northern California over 100 years ago, when locals began to spread rumors of bizarre occult rituals being conducted in the ancient redwood groves of Sonoma County. As the decades passed, it became clear these incredible stories had a basis in truth, and their source was a 2,700-acre private club known as the Bohemian Grove. Then in a time period between the mid-1970s and the early 1990s, scores of reporters attempted to infiltrate the Grove. All attempts were unsuccessful. Grove security identified them, threw them out for trespassing, or in some cases, had the local police arrest them. To many it seemed the Grove's secrets would never become public. All of that changed on July 15th, 2000, when we ripped aside the veil of secrecy and were successfully able to penetrate the Bohemian Grove on their high holy day and videotape the cremation of care ritual.
Wow. Great son of all mortal wisdom, owl of Bohemia, we beseech thee, grant us thy counsel. O great owl of Bohemia, we thank thee for thy adjuration. Begone, dull care. Fire shall have its will of thee. Begone, dull care. And all the winds make merry with thy ducks. Hail, fellowship's eternal flame. Once again, midsummer sets us free.
There you see the funeral pyre burning with the effigy of a human, or it could be real, ladies and gentlemen. There's been a lot of strange going-ons in that area of Northern California, but this is what the establishment is into right here in America.
Where did this dark thinking start? This black spirituality? The central thread goes back to ancient Egypt and Babylon with the mystery schools. They knew that knowledge is power, and so secret societies were formed to guard the secrets of medicine, architecture, government, agriculture. Secret societies are nothing more than the first intelligence agencies. Knowledge had to be guarded, but over time, elites abused their control of the knowledge and used it to dominate their populations. And these same sciences of control are being used today. That's why the elite today relishes secrecy. They know that it is the fount of their power. They seek to dumb down the population, not just to hoard their secret knowledge to make us even more mindless, more domesticated, like braying sheep to the slaughter. Their religion is the science of sophistry, the science of the con artist, the science of the despot, the dictator, the tyrant, the controller, the charlatan, the liar. They come to kill, steal, and destroy. They are parasites. They are anathema to free, dynamic human societies. Know your enemy. Stand up for love and life and family, and resist the New World Order and the Babylonian slave state our enemies are attempting to construct. Thousands of years ago, there was a basic form of chivalry. Our ancestors would hear the drums of war, giving the warriors of the tribe a chance to organize and prepare a defense. 60 years ago, when foreign air forces were approaching filled with bombs, they had drums of their own, air raid sirens. But in the 21st century, there are silent weapons for quiet war, pathogens added to the food and water, and to the lining of plastics that destroy our vitality, turn off our hormones, and accelerate our journey towards death. I personally counter this onslaught with Anthroplex. Anthroplex is designed with known organic concentrated herbs to create the basic foundation to normal metabolic activity inside the human body. Discover why Anthroplex is turning so many heads today. It's time for us to take our bodies back into our own hands, and it starts at InfoWarsLife.com with Anthroplex.